to 1 billion years ago. And here you see the extinctions that in this zone over here, this is when the Earth was just a snowball. There wasn't anything living here really at all. The Cambrian explosion, that's when plants were invented, algae in particular. Here you've got extinction, 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 extinction. Here's the most recent KT extinction, and they say that now we are moving through the 6th great extinction. So that puts that in perspective, and this is what the world looked like 1 billion years ago. And in that world...
Hey, this is really interesting, you know, because so there's no land to speak of up near the North Pole. Right now we've got Greenland up there, which is able to hold a huge amount of ice. Back then, there was nothing up there to hold ice. So what was the significance of that?
Well, there was no ice. I mean,
nor could there be any.
Right, but the formation of the ice is one of the things that took us into that cycle of ice ages.
But you have to have land up on the pole in order to even support the ice. And the other thing that's really important here is that a lot of our temperatures are regulated now by ocean conveyors like the Gulf Stream, and you can't have conveyors in a world that looks like this.
So that world was a world where the CO2 level was incredibly high, and the oceans were like a soup of algae. And the algae were the little plants that would absorb that carbon dioxide into their bodies. Their bodies were made of carbon, and they would release oxygen. So over hundreds of millions of years, they changed the atmosphere. And when they died, their little carbon bodies drifted down in the ocean, and they formed huge carbon deposits, which were then pressed into coal and into oil. And it's those deposits that we are now digging up and are releasing back into the atmosphere. This is climate change acting at the scale of hundreds of millions of years. I'm going to let that sink in for a minute.
So can I ask a question? Can you go back to your time graph? Can you show us over what period of time all of that carbon got pulled out of the atmosphere and shoved into the ground?
Well,
what period are we looking at here?
If you listen to the news and they talk about various oil deposits, they call them like the Permian Basin.
In Texas, sure.
In Texas, there it is. So it's all of, yes, the Permian. So it's all of this time. And that's the thing, it's the scale.
So let me look at this a sec. So about 500 million years ago, the process began, and it was still kind of going on, and you can see the CO2 come plummeting down here around the Cretaceous period. So a period of about 400 million years it took to get all that CO2 into the ground.
Exactly.
400 million years it took to sequester this stuff, and 100 years to put it back in to the atmosphere.
Yeah, let that sink in for a minute.
And 100 years, we've undone 400 million years of carbon sequestration.
Right.
Whoa.
And that's the scale at which these things are happening. All right. What about the future?
Hang on.
Oh my God.
Before we get to the future, I'm just still dealing with the past here. I mean, this is like profound, horrifying stuff, Gray.
I get that.
And this is one of the things that I get out of your book. I got to say, by the way, also for folks who can't tell, there's also a book that goes along with this website. It's the same, but we spend a lot of time sitting up in the evening, flipping through the pages of the book and just staring at this stuff and trying to make sense of the planet. But I mean, the past, you know, there's the big past and then there's the recent past. And this is really disturbing stuff. Yeah. Okay, now you can go to the future.
Okay.
But I'm still coping with the past.
Yeah, I mean, this is why I did the book, in order to put all of this in perspective so that you could see it visually.